I have a problem with with using the urban renewal district for foothills, because when I look at urban renewal districts, it works wonderfully in some places. Millennium Park is a good example of that. I don't think it would work well in the foothills area, and the reason is because, for one thing, you're talking about taking a substantial amount of money to get the thing started and investing in public services. Even if the contractor contributed to that, we would still be putting quite a bit of money into that thing. And when you do that, it takes a while for any improvement in the value to result in any kind of tax increment. So that's money is coming out of our budget that we could be using to spend on infrastructure and various other things, as well as schools. So my understanding is that there was a design report done by private developers that said the return on investment down there would be 16 to 1 or 24 to 1. That sounds like a pretty good thing. If that's there, then it would seem to me that we should let the private developers go ahead with it and get their good return, and everybody benefits. I am in favor of developing foothills. I think that it should be. I'm not in favor of getting high-density housing down there. I am in favor of trying to get some employee-based development down there so that you can get actual tax revenue coming in as opposed to spending a lot of money on services and costs for residences.
Well, this is an issue on which Kent and I disagree. I think that foothills is the classic case of where an urban renewal district makes sense. To use the increase in value that will occur when major private investment is made in that neighborhood in order to provide a modest level of public improvement in order to facilitate a major investment by private capital. I mean, those ratios of whether it's 10 to 1 or 20 to 1, who knows what it would wind up being, but the analysis is pretty compelling about what we can accomplish down there in a very, very underutilized piece of real estate that is very close into our urban core. It is close into downtown, having more people there who live in new housing, who patronize the restaurants and shops and other amenities in downtown will really be a boost to that end of the community. And it will provide more housing for families that can come in, or people who want to move out of their family-sized homes, which are oversized for them, into housing that's more appropriate to their stage in life if they so choose. And then free up those family homes so that young families can come out into our established neighborhoods. Because in the end, our school district depends on having an influx of young families. And we need to provide housing within our community that can accomplish that, because the family sizes are shrinking demographically, and so we need to accommodate that kind of dynamism in our community.
Foothills, we're blessed to have foothills. Okay, it is a diamond in the rough. There is no doubt about it. Skip and I were walking down there the other day. There's one big stinky problem that we're going to have to deal with. There's no getting around it. That treatment plant, Portland's told us, look, it's not. Dean Marriott wrote a very nice letter. Hey, hell of a plan. Good luck. So that's about the bottom line. So we're going to have to work around that. I personally like to see something employer-based down there. I think it'd be a great place for a campus, an employer campus, a large high-tech facility, if we can attract one, which I believe, given the beauty and the education of this community, we can attract those people. I do not support the urban renewal at this time, and I don't support urban renewal in general, but specifically at this time. We have, that'll be our, July 1st, we had one urban renewal area. By the end of the month of July, we had 3. These are decades-long projects that are going to tie up money. Schools will be affected. I think schools need help now. And I think that we can develop this stuff faster and get the benefit faster without artificially tying that up in urban renewal.
I do support foothills, and if you recall the 4 foundations that I spoke about in my opening, foothills hits each one of those smack on, and it helps a lot. First is we need to attract the educated population to Lake Oswego. That's been our success. In the future, today and into the near term, half this country is going to fall into two age groups, over 65 and 20 to 35, the millennials and the baby boomers. They're going to be half the population. We need to be building housing that's attractive to those two groups. Urban and scale, walkable neighborhoods are attractive to those. Secondly, we have the issue of schools and getting kids into Lake Oswego. This might attract the development, might attract kids directly, but if people in Lake Oswego move out of their single-family homes into these sorts of condominiums and apartments in foothills, it frees up that home. It helps with our finances. We do have to end the urban renewal period, but it helps with those. And finally, the financing plan for foothills is top-notch, it's terrific. Down there today, we get virtually no taxes, something in the neighborhood of $50,000 a year. So the tax increment on there is all upscale based upon the new development. The school district supports it. They recognize it's a terrific project. And we don't spend any more money until the developer signs up, not for public investment only, but to put up the buildings that would create foothills. So everything about foothills is very positive, and I support it.
In my opening statement, I didn't tell everyone I'm a builder. I own a company in Lake Oswego for 20 years called O'Neill Builders. I also own a development and I own commercial buildings in the greater Portland area, and I own one right here in Lake Oswego. So I'm going to speak to you from how a builder and a property owner of commercial real estate looks at real estate. You go down to foothills, and yes, immediately you can say tax base low, underutilized, because anywhere we have industrial property in Lake Oswego, underutilized for Lake Oswego. And we have a lot of industrial property in foothills, as well as we have it out in the Lake Grove area. Using urban renewal dollars, why do that? All you have to do is change the zoning. If the zoning is restricted because it is used for warehouse, and now you say, I'll change the zoning to outright use so you can put homes and buildings on it. Let's just bring in the top developers in Portland, say, where are you interested in building in Lake Oswego? And let's go after those spots. Remember, Foothills has a 3 to 4 acre sewage treatment plant in it. Just think about that.
The Foothills area has an opportunity to bring in a lot of families. And one of the questions the other night, I saw a gentleman who was probably one of the youngest in the crowd and said, what about the young families? How do we attract more young families? This is an opportunity to do that, to build what many are talking about, high density, to build apartments or beautiful complexes, not like high-rise apartments, but beautiful walkable places where a real neighborhood could develop. It's close to downtown. It will bring in more children, which will support the schools. The school district, as it's already been mentioned, does support this, and the young families will be attracted. We're not pulling young families in or having a place for empty nesters if they choose to leave the home that they're in. Or we don't even have a place if your mom or dad wants to live with you, because we don't have a granny apartment. We can't put a kitchen in there. It only allows for 900 square feet. It's not enough space, but this would be an opportunity for that.
Foothills is good for our neighborhoods and good for our schools. It's a low-risk investment that will help take the pressure off of our neighborhoods so that the city can grow without jeopardizing the character of our existing neighborhoods. It has been said multiple times, help attract young families to the city, will allow our seniors that are looking for options to downsize. We'll give them a place to go that's walkable and vibrant. It's going to utilize investments that the city's already made in a wonderful park down on the river. It's going to connect our downtown, and it's got benefits to existing downtown businesses. And in general, I think it would do wonderful things for the city. I think if you look at Lakeview Village, and if you question whether Foothills can be done in a character that's uniquely Lake Oswego, I don't question that. I know that it can. It's not going to be Portland. It's not going to be South Waterfront. It's going to be something uniquely Lake Oswego. If you look at the 555 2nd Street project, which would be of a similar density that we might see in Foothills. It's a beautiful project, non-threatening, and I think any of us would enjoy it. So I absolutely support Foothills.
Development in Foothills, yes. Public or private? I believe strongly that it should be private. And in fact, when I think about what would be the very best way to help our schools by activity in the Foothills area, it would not be from an urban renewal district. And there are lots of reasons for that if you care to have us go into that later. What would be the best for the schools is to have buildings there that were private and therefore would have property tax placed on them. If there were property tax, part of it goes to the city, part of it goes to the county, and part of it goes to the schools. So if we're talking about helping the schools, let's think about some private development that emphasizes employment base. And with that employment base, we also lower the cost of the city services in that area. So it makes a lot of sense. Low risk? I don't know. Not only is there that sewer treatment plant, but it's also in a floodplain. So there are a couple of major factors here working against that project as far as getting the city involved without risk. I don't think so. And there's also been some talk about creating an urban scale project there for seniors and for young families. I'm picturing some high density housing, which I've heard Metro talk about, and I'm not convinced that that's where seniors yearn to live, nor do young families yearn to live. So let's rethink how the usage of Foothills would be so that it really does bring the maximum benefit to the city if and when it does occur. And I believe that that would be through providing good employment center base right there, privately.